Hello guys and welcome back to another episode of the Ultimate Journeyman. This is the first episode of the season 2, so we're going to try and get as far way through the summer transfer window as possible in this episode. Hopefully we'll get more towards the end, maybe play a friendly, but we'll just see how we get on. So the aim of this transfer window really is to try and plug the gaps, try and improve the quality we've got in the squad, get rid of all the reserves, which hopefully their contracts are going to run out in the end of June. Maybe sell a couple of players, have a look around on the loan market and on the freebies market, see if we can get any players in from there. And we'll probably have a bit more of an idea of what's going on the 1st of July, where everybody's going to leave and then we're going to actually have a proper wage and transfer budget to look at. And maybe a couple of teams will put some bids in for some players. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through and scout straight away. It is the 21st of May, but I think that if we have a look now and then have a look when it gets to June, then it's going to mean that basically we can find the players that were actually available to us now, and rather than miss out on these players who might get snapped up by other teams, we can have a look through them. And then once it gets to the 1st of July, obviously all the free contracts will become available, and we'll actually have another proper look around at like transfer listed players and loan listed players. So the first thing that I'm doing is just having a look around at some fullbacks, just seeing if I can find any sort of defenders that are going to be any good. Going to try and buy quite a few South Africans in this window because obviously we're going to have to meet the quota. We do get a couple of extra foreign players in the Premier League, and hopefully a couple of better foreign players are going to be available to us. So yeah, I'm just having a little scout around. I'm probably going to end up doing a lot of scout reports, which is going to mean that the scouts are going to be pretty busy over this window. Because I've not got too many and they're not that great, it's probably going to take at least 4, 5 or 6 actual reports to come back before we're going to be able to see the stats. So I might actually have to end up bidding on some players that I can't really see many stats of. Again, just the way that I'm looking at things is basically just by ticking the main sort of attribute areas. Start off usually by just using the highlight key attributes for role at the top and then selecting the role that I want to do. And then if there's no one that comes up on that with sort of like lower down stats, then I'll then just do this like I've done now and basically just filter with less of the stats but the ones that are more important to me, and then do it like maybe a little bit higher, and then obviously drop it to say like 10. It's probably going to end up being, we're on 11 at the moment, but obviously for this league we just need to kind of have someone who's consistent. And the other thing about it as well is that if you can see the stats is like say between 10 and 14, 10 and 12, things like that, if you put in a attribute, so obviously a player could have loads of the attributes and maybe not have a couple of them, but if you don't put the attribute number down to enough of a level, then they won't appear. So I'm going to start off by doing each of the attributes needs to be 10, and then I'll end up doing a little bit where I'll take a couple of the attributes out and just have to match say like 6 out of 8 rather than the full 8 out of 8. So we're just having a look at some centre backs at the moment. Just going to send a load of scouts, send the scouts out to do a load of scout reports. There's not really anyone who's took my fancy just yet, but I think it's going to be more of a case of in these early days, as we're still in May, it's more of a case of building up the knowledge rather than necessarily actually finding some players that are going to be really good, because I think that at the moment we really don't have any knowledge at all. And I think that just by doing this, it's going to just improve things. Maybe have a few players that we can add to the shortlist and just have a look at a little bit later in the window. So we've not really had any luck there with any defenders. Just going to see if we can find any that aren't South African. And I'd be happy to get a couple in. Obviously we've got Moyo at the minute, who's from Zimbabwe. He's a centre midfielder who I'm probably going to end up keeping him. I think his contract actually does run out at the end of this. At the end of this season, so I'm probably going to have to renew that at some point, but I'm not necessarily going to do it just yet in case the standard of players that we can actually get in are a lot better than Moyo is. So it looks like the foreign players are obviously a lot better. I've managed to put it up to 13, just dropped it down to 12, which means that obviously there's a lot more players that are foreign that are a lot better, which is to be expected. But I think that for this season it's more about getting some okay South African players. I'm hoping maybe to get a couple of players who can rotate between positions as well that are quite good, which means that I'm just covered across the board for the South African quota that I need to reach. There seems to be a lot of Swedish and Norwegian and Scandinavian players that are available, which seems a little bit weird seeing as it's South Africa, but That just seems to be the way it is. And obviously there's this James Clark guy, he's an English player. There seems to be quite a few English players, but I think that's probably just because of my knowledge. But the problem with them is that I don't know whether they'll be able to get a work permit. So we'll just have to look at that. The other thing that I have noticed as well in this league is that, well, it's on other saves that I've done, is basically the work permits take a lot longer to come through. So the actual Board of Appeal won't do it for, say, like a month, which is a bit odd. So that's just something we're going to have to look out for. It's probably going to take a little while for them to even get a decision made on them. This Matthias guy actually looks pretty good, just from his general stats I can see there. I think he might have had a couple of decent physicals, but yeah, we really can't see very much at the moment. It's going to be more of a case of just trying to find if anyone really stands out, if anyone's got a really good start, and then hopefully the scouts don't take too long to come back, and then we might actually be able to sign a couple of players. Another thing that you want to take into account is that when you are going to, I kind of like to release a few players and keep my squad quite small, so that then my wage budget's freed up, and I can basically, once July the 1st hits, I can use all of that wage budget to actually get some players in. But the downside to doing that is that if you don't have a big enough squad, you won't be able to get the players that you could have beforehand, because they'll basically turn around and it'll come up when you try and offer them the contract and say that the squad isn't good enough for them to join. So you might find that you see quite a few players, add them to your shortlist, you let some players go in the 1st of July, and then they won't accept the contract because they're just not interested in coming to anymore because your squads are not strong enough. So I'm going to have to probably leave quite a few in. One thing that I have found that you can do by doing that is leave quite a few of your loans, so extend the loans for another season, and those players will kind of plug the gap in between. And even if you end up terminating those loans afterwards, as long as there isn't a limit on the number of loans that you can do in a season, which there isn't in either league in South Africa, then I can still terminate them afterwards and go and get a couple more loans in. And I've kind of weighed it in between so that I've not got too much of an imbalance of my squad while I'm trying to sign some players, because the last thing that I want is to get a list of players together on my shortlist and they end up not wanting to join once I actually come to offer them a contract. So still just looking around, trying to find a centre-back. Might find a couple of wing-backs in here as well. But yeah, it's just kind of a generalised defensive scouting, to be honest. Marking, tackling, heading, positioning, jumping, determination. Charles Dunn, he actually looks okay. I think I actually had him on a different game. Looks alright. Might end up getting him in. I really am going to have to watch it with the foreign players. It's going to be a bit of a nightmare. Curtis Till, he looks alright as well, to be fair. I'm sure I've had him on a different game. Yeah, I like to basically, I think we're allowed 5 foreigners in the team. So I like to get quite a good spine together, which might mean that I have to get a goalkeeper that's foreign, but I'm just not too sure. I had a look at the back end of last season for some goalkeepers, and there doesn't really seem to be anyone who's that interested. So yeah, I'm going to try and get a spine together. I might end up having to get like 2 foreign centre halves just to shore things up at the back, and then maybe like a 1 centre midfielder and then a striker. Sometimes what I will do is get all 3 strikers as foreign and just go for pure out-and-out firepower up front, and then just basically plug the gaps at the back and hope for the best and hope that we basically outscore teams. But I think for this one, I'm going to try and keep it quite balanced throughout the team. Try not to have too many poor players, but just having a look now, it doesn't look particularly great. I've only obviously looked at some defenders so far, but you usually, when you step up a league, you find some players that are like really good, and you can usually get like some really good players in each position. But at the moment, I really look like I'm going to be struggling for some defenders. I've just changed it to some strikers. Obviously, I've left it so that we're still looking at anybody who's from any nationality, not necessarily just South African. This Nthambu guy looks okay. Again, just scanning across the line, click on them, and then basically just have a look and see what you're looking for. Obviously, if you were looking for like a target man, look at the jumping, heading, off the ball you're always going to need for a striker. But I'm going to try and get some pacey strikers again in place, similar to how I did last season. I might train another formation so that it's a little bit deeper, and maybe go for like a, 4-1-4-1, so that even if we just grab a goal or we're playing against a bigger team, we can try and see the game out or just try and snatch a draw against the bigger team. So yeah, I'm I'm just going to see, but I think that it worked so well last season, and obviously we're going to have probably going to have quite a few of the players that are familiar with that formation. So I might just go for it at the start of the season. I might just literally go out and out 4-1-2-3 and just absolutely go for it. Hope that there's some teams in the league that I can beat with that formation, and then when it comes against there's Orlando Pirates, Kaiser Chiefs, there's a team called Wits who seemed like they're quite good, and I think there's a team, I think we played them in a friendly called Sundowns. I think they did quite well last season as well. So yeah, it's just going to be a case of have a see what happens. We might end up getting absolutely smashed in the first couple of games, and I might have to change it, but as long as I've done one formation which I can revert back to, which might end up being like a 4-1-2-2-1, which I quite like playing, but that would just depend on whether I get some strikers in that can play on the wings. But yeah, we flicked back to that formation quite a bit last season, and we actually ended up winning a couple of games from some weird positions, people getting injured, and actually they ended up coming on, scoring a winner. So we might revert back to that, or we might just play exactly the same as we did last season. Just looking at these strikers, a couple of them look okay. There's nothing particularly great standing out at the moment. There's a couple that look like they might be alright. But yeah, literally, if you look at all the Reds there, I've literally just gone through almost every single player, which you might not want to do all of the every single player. But I find that when I've just been promoted, it's kind of necessary to do this because you're not going to have that many players that you need to look through, but you're really going to struggle if you don't get some players that are a lot better than what you had the season before. So I'm just adding a couple more stats in. They're all pretty basic. You could just use the highlight attributes for all at the top, and when it comes onto this screen, just delete a few and put the level to whatever you want. So at the minute I'm just on 12, but just keep flicking between them. You never know who might come up. Could do with just one really good striker. I mean, in terms of what we've actually got as the team at the moment, I would say that carrying across the next season, we had Mo Howe right back, who seems like he could be a really top right back, to be honest. Even though his stats aren't that great, he's actually performing well, and I would like to keep him in that role because he got us quite a few assists last season. I think he was our top assister from right back. Asoko's gone at centre back, and Sutsalupa's gone who's in centre mid, so we're definitely going to have to fill those voids. I don't really want to play. I think I had Ndlovu, who wanted more money, so he's also going as well at centre back. And we had Skippers, who was a loan, so I might try and get him back in on loan, but I don't really want to start him. At left back, we didn't really have anyone who stood out at left back last season, so I'd kind of like to sort that out. But I mean, it's not the end of the world if we have to play someone in a bit of a weird position again, to be honest. I'd quite like to sort the wing back positions out. In terms of centre midfield, we had Moyo, who's going to stay. He's the captain. He's probably going to remain as the captain this season. We could do with like a really big physical defensive midfielder. I found that when you go up a league, if you can get someone who's like a really solid physical player, they'll usually hold their own even if everything else isn't particularly great. Someone to partner Moyo in the centre, so I might go physical again next to him. But I think that where we were missing last season was maybe someone to just pop up with a nice assist from somewhere. Sutsalupa got us quite a few goals last season, so that's going to be a gap we're going to have to fill. But I'm not too bothered about losing him because I think that he's like a really good centre midfielder. But when you lose your legs in midfield, unless you're going to play them as an anchor man, I don't think that you can really cope with it. And as good as he was last season, yeah, okay, he might come up with a couple of goals, but it'll probably cost us more in a top league, I would have thought. And then up front, we're going to probably keep Lucky Kuhn. He scored us a lot of goals last season, but he was on and off. So I think that we're going to at least have to get someone who can come in for him. And he only really likes playing through the centre. He didn't really do it when he was on the right or on the left. So I think that getting someone who's going to be like a really solid striker who can play through the centre and also can probably play a little bit out wide. So if we do play Kuhn, then he can play with him as well as replacing him. Siwala obviously was absolutely amazing at the end of last season. Signed him in I think it was the end of November, and he was just unbelievable. So he's definitely going to start, and he's probably going to play on the right side. But it depends if we can get someone. If we can get someone with a good left foot, and they can play on the left hand side, then we'll definitely play Siwala on the right because I think that's where he's best. But I think he can definitely do the job on the left hand side as well if we need him to. I think he might be our only player who really is going to actually be sort of like a key player for a Premiership side. I think the way that it's going to probably end up being is that I found this in a couple of the other saves where when you're in a league that's got actually quite a poor overall level for their actual nationality, the better players are always tied into decent length contracts and on quite a bit of wage at the big teams. And then it's kind of a case of everybody else has to sort of go with the slim pickings that are in the league. So it might work against us in some ways because it might take like another season for some of the contracts to run out and then we can maybe get a couple in. But the good thing about it is that if all the big teams have got the better players, then it means that the other teams in the league will probably be pretty poor, or at least have a couple of spaces in the team where they're going to get rinsed, to be honest, by like a foreign player. So we'll just have to see. So we've just finished some scouting. We're just going to have a quick flick through the scout reports that we've got. Yeah, as you can see, we can't really see too much of the stats. I think at the moment I'm focusing more on like the physicals, because I think if I can get someone with some decent pace, then even if I get them in and they've got some pace about them, then I think they're going to do something, or they can at least do a job for us. The other thing that I'm going to look at a lot on these players that I'm going to try and sign in this window is the determination, because I really want like a team that's going to be really determined. And my aim for next season really is to just stay up really. I would like to push on and try and push up really far up the league, but it really just depends on the standard of the players that I'm going to get in. I've never done a save in South Africa before, so it's completely new to me. I don't know whether there's like a real big gap in quality between us and the top teams, but I think that maybe just sit as close to mid-table as we can in the league and go on a bit of a cup run, because I think in the cup we're probably going to make a little bit of money out of being in the cup. Oh, this Matthias guy, he's at Sundowns reserves. He's actually on the transfer list as well. He could end up being a guy. He's 16 determination as well. I think he might be one of my big transfers. He could be really, really good. He's only on a grand a week as well, so we'll probably be able to get him in. I'm pretty happy with him. Might leave him just for now though. He could be really, really good. Really good. Unfortunately, he's not got any South African nationality, so he would count as a foreign player. He could be the first. He's kind of the first player that I've took note of so far. Mainly just because of his determination and his physicals, to be honest. And Thembu, he looks like he could be quite good. Really good off the ball. Good finishing, good pace. Determination 1 to 4. It's not great. I could do with some players that have got good work rate as well in this league. Don't really want anyone that's below 8. Even though I'd prefer them to obviously have at least 12, 13. But I just don't think I can be carrying any players. I think everyone's going to have to pull the weight if we're going to do pretty well. Yeah, so mid-table-ish and go on a cup run. Try and get as far as we can in the cup. We'll probably come up against the big team sooner rather than later, but I think if we can build a bit of money by doing that, then that'd be ideal. And I mean, ultimately, I really would like to try and... I always kind of, when I come up in a league, I always like to try and go for one of the cups, to be honest, because if you're not really going to get into the European places... Well, it's not European, not South Africa, I keep saying that, it's continental. If you're not going to get into one of the continental places, then the cup's the best chance that you've got, and you never know, like one of the really poor teams might end up getting might end up knocking out the big teams. So if that happens, then you can pounce. You might end up having a little quite an easy run or quite a lot of home games in the cup, and yeah, we'll just have to see. But I'm pretty open about this season. I think that as long as we stay in the league, I'll be happy, to be honest. Don't really want to set myself up too much for a fail, to be honest, if we don't end up doing too well. Mohau, fans player of the season. Masia got young player of the season. Lucky Kuhn sound of the season. Sutsalupa goal of the season. Oh, what a goal it was as well. Absolute bullet. So Mohau, fans player of the season. Definitely deserved it. Very, very good season overall. Really, really pleased with what I was managed to do, to be honest. Okay, so we've just got something from the board to say, do we want to buy the stadium? It's 35,000 seats. Yeah, I think it's a good investment. Although maybe I shouldn't have done that. It's probably going to cost us some money to do that. It might cost us a bit of money. So I'm just having a look at my profile. So decent all round for characteristics. Loyalty to players isn't too great. It's probably because I told people they were going to play and they didn't. Just having a little scan down the team. Let's have a gander. See who's going at the end of this season. Whose contracts we have to renew. So these 4 are staying. So I'm pretty happy with all those 4, to be honest. Yeah, we've got that Sekwama as well. I forgot to talk about him before. He's obviously quite a decent striker if he comes through, and he's all right. And then we're just gonna have a look at the schedule. So this is how the last season went. So yeah, obviously we started it with those couple of wins in the friendlies, and we lost a load of games, which wasn't the greatest. And then 2 wins, draw, loss, 3 wins, loss, win, draw, loss, win, loss, win, loss in the cup. And then after that cup defeat, we just went on a bit of a run. Really good run, that. Win, draw, 4 wins in a row, draw, 2 wins, a loss, a draw. Thunder Royal Zulu. Bastards. And then obviously Tux beat us again, just because there are our enemies, to be honest. But they didn't get promoted, I don't think, so we got the last laugh. And then, finished the season quite strong. So I think that run after we lost that cup game was what really got us promoted. And in a way, I'm kind of glad that Tux beat us in that cup game, because if the cup games had been in between there, we probably would have had to rest players and we might not have gone on that run in the league. So I think in the end it actually came good, that, to be honest. And I think we did really well after the sort of Christmas period. Came back with a bit of a vengeance. Probably should have beat FC Cape Town as well in that game where it was 3-3. We probably should have won that. But we got 10 men, didn't we? So yeah, I think we did pretty well. I was pretty happy with all that, to be honest. So I'm just going to show you the bank balance and the way that the finances are looking at the moment. And it's not looking great, to be perfectly honest with you. 300 in the red. I don't think that's actually anything to do with us. I'm pretty sure that, I was under my wage budget all last season, and I didn't really spend that much on the transfers. So presumably they were just running at a loss, which is not great, to be perfectly honest with you. Hopefully there'll be some sort of TV revenue this season which is going to kick into gear, but I would have liked to have been in a bit of better position than we are. Lost 483 grand this season. Okay, so one thing that I do is I basically go into the league that you were in when you get promoted. You look at the league below and then obviously go through and have a look at the sort of best players out of that league. So I usually just click through each of the squads and just have a look. And then obviously you've played in that league, so you might know of a couple of the players already. Lucky Mathosi being one of them. He scored a few goals against us, but his stats aren't really that great. But maybe he's just one of them players who scores. He got 9 in 22. So I'm not massively sold on him, to be honest. Cape Town, obviously our rivals, they're going to come up with us by the looks of it. So unless Royal Eagles do a job on them, but yeah, he's quite good actually. Taylor. Wanted by Ishmaeli, they bought one of our players. I think it was Sutsalupa. Don't really think there was anyone else in the league who was that great. So we'll just have a look at the overview of the players. Dipper, obviously, scored a lot of goals, 20 goals in 24 games. So he did really well. His stats again aren't great though, to be honest, but I think he might be someone we might look at. Also, you will notice with a couple of these players that will be on loan from some bigger teams. So you want to add them to your shortlist, and when they come available, you'll probably want to try and take them on loan because they'll obviously probably come for quite cheap. But you usually don't get as many free loans when you go into the league above, because obviously you're going to be playing in the same league as their parent club. So they'll probably want you to pay a little bit of money. So I'm just clicking down the assisters here. And then I'm just going to have a look through the actual Premier League, so who scored the most goals. So, yeah, Orlando Pirates. Sorry, this is the assists. Yeah, it looks like it's all the teams that I said about. It's not really great. Usually what you could do is, if for some reason one of the teams that's relegated have a player that's in one of these player overviews, then you might be able to snap them up, but it's not looking like that's going to be the case. But I think maybe anyone who's in any of the teams who are around the bottom of the league or mid-table, we might be able to poach a couple of those if they appear in here, but I doubt we're going to be able to get any of the ones from the bigger clubs, not unless they put them on the transfer list or something silly like that, but I can't see them doing that. But I'm just going to scout these anyway, because obviously if we stay in the league, maybe next season we might be able to pick a couple up. Seems to be quite a few players from Zimbabwe. I'll have to have a look at their squad. Peter Moyo's in there, but is he only a bencher? Yeah, he's only a bencher, but let's just have a look. I'll usually do this is I'll look through a couple of the nations, particularly when you're in the lower leagues. You might be able to pick up a couple of players from the national side that are quite cheap, so I've just sorted it by value, and then I'm just going to click on these ones that I can actually, presumably I'm going to be able to afford, and just scout them. Might end up not being able to scout some of them because they might be outside your scouting range, but it's just it's definitely worth looking at, because obviously the national team manager is going to pick the best players from in that nation, or at least you would hope so. So you kind of get in half of your scouting done for you, because you would hope that they're going to be of like some sort of a decent level for you to actually get them in. Quite a lot of the time as well, there's usually a couple of free players, which is quite interesting. You wouldn't expect someone who's playing for the national team to not have a deal with any club, not unless they're from some really spurious nation. Doesn't look like there's anyone who's particularly great, but you never know. Might be a couple that come through that are quite decent. Yeah, so I'm just going to have a look at the relegated teams. Obviously they're going to have quite low ratings. I'm just going to sort it by, I've just sorted it by ratings anyway, but there might be a player that's playing in there that is like a really good player, but he's just playing in a really shit team, so just going to have a little look. This Venter guy looks like he could be okay. He's either footed as well and he's South African, so that might be... He's on 1,300 quid a week though at the moment, which is quite pricey for what we want. Definitely worth scouting a couple of these though, because obviously they're going to probably want to leave. Quite a few of them might hand in transfer requests. Yeah, this guy looks quite good, this in Kosu. And if you do go on the transfer requests, then they're more than likely going to want to come to you, because you've just got promoted into the league that they've come down from, and usually they'll get them for a little bit cheaper as well. Still just looking at some scout reports. Still can't see very much, to be honest. Don't know whether many of them are going to want to come as well, to be fair, by the looks of it so far. It's not looked great when it's come back. So it's probably going to take a year at least to build up the reputation of the actual team themselves. That is the probably the key issue when bringing a team up that wasn't even meant to get promoted, is that your reputation is only going to go up so much. So you might end up actually having a reputation that's less than someone else who's still in the league below. Okay, so we're going to get this Chimbambo. So he's come in. Can't really see his stats yet because he's on trial, but looks like he could be okay. So Matthias has actually just left his club, weirdly enough, and his physical stats are immense. He's fast and he's strong, so he's definitely someone I'm going to keep an eye on. Pretty much fits the bill perfectly for either playing in centre midfield or in that ball winner in defensive midfield role, so definitely going to keep an eye on him. So Matthias has rejected the trial. Devastating. Going to try and sign him though. Wants to play right back, but I don't think he can play right back because some of his mental stats is a little bit concerning. So going to offer him a contract. He was on £1,000 a week before, so hopefully he won't be too greedy. Something to look out for though when you're offering contracts is that because you've got a low reputation, sometimes they want a lot of money, more than what they would do beforehand. So let's just see how we get some of this. He's got an orange straight away. I can't believe it. One player that I actually want so far, and he's going to end up kicking up a fuss. So we're going to have to knock a couple of these up and see if he'll come in. But I don't really want to end up spending a fortune on him because I might end up actually paying some of this out. I don't really want to keep a signing on fee and agent fee that's too high because I don't want to spend too much money on the transfers, because I'm going to need that money in wages. I would have thought, trying to get this as high as possible. Don't really want to just offer him nothing. Going to double that. Let's see. This is a bit of a ridiculous contract for me to be offering this early, but I really want this guy. I think that he kind of fits my bill perfectly. So we're just going to have to just pay the money and hope for the best. And he's still gone red. I don't believe it. You bastard. You absolute bastard. Alright, so Moyo's wanted by Ismaili. Shock. Ismaili coming after our players once again. Getting a bit sick of these Egyptian teams coming after my players, to be honest. So I found this guy. He's amazing. Deutero. and he's on loan, so hopefully I'll be able to get him on loan. 4.5 star. Shit. I need to get him. I really need to get him. He could be dynamite. I seen him halfway through the season playing for them, and I thought he was really, really good. Alright, so this is one of the keepers that I was looking at. And I mean, his positioning concerns me. Concentration, anticipation concern me. And so does rushing out, and so does throwing. But he's on a free, and I really like him for the rest of his stats. And he's got a 4 star, potential 4.5 star rating, and he's 22, and he's 6'3", and he's not on much wage. And he's probably not going to ask for much wages either. And when I compare him to Goss, who's my current keeper, he shits right all over him. So this guy might be my keeper next season. I kind of like his name as well. Dumisani Masibi. Yeah, he's really, really good. Much more rounded. All them greens on the goalkeeping stats are really good. And obviously, positioning might only be 10, but that's only 1 less than what Ricardo Goss has got at the moment. And he's 22, so he might end up actually getting some. Might end up improving quite a bit. So yeah, I think he could end up being my goalkeeper. I'm not going to approach him just yet because I want to leave it a little bit more towards the end of June. But he's definitely someone we're going to look at. So I'm just going to ask the board. Well, try to ask the board for some extra extra coaches, but not having any of it. So just been having a look around at some more midfielders and found this Kisboy guy. He looks like he could be alright. Monama, he also looks like he could be okay as well. A couple of teams are after him. Might end up costing a bit of him though, to be fair. So in light of having a look at Masibi, I think he probably is going to be my keeper, but I'm just going to try and see if there's any other goalkeepers that are on the market. Oscar Reen. Decisions again. His decisions are really poor. It's kind of one of the real reasons that I like Masibi is because of his decisions. 14 decisions is so high. That's got to count for a lot. Carl Peters looks okay as well. Let's just have a look and see if there's any foreigners. I can't really scout any of these foreigners, which is getting a bit annoying, to be honest. I feel like if we could just ask if we could go to Scandinavia, it'd be so helpful. There's so many Scandi players, it's a joke. Doesn't seem to be too many. Amoni. He's at Mathatha Bucks, who are in the league the first division that we've just played in. He's getting on a bit. Still looking like Masibi at the moment though. Problem with these English players is that they're just not going to get the work permit. I don't think they're going to be good enough to bypass the permit, and they've not had any caps for England. So, alright, so we've had a negotiated offer for this Dutero. We tried to offer for him, but it's far too expensive. Okay, so we've had a report back for this Kispui. We'll call him Kispui. And he looks alright. He's 5'5" though, which is a bit of an ish, but I think he could probably play alongside Moyo. This Manama's 6 foot. He looks quite good as well. So we're slowly getting a couple of players that are quite decent together. Yeah, all these goalkeeper reports have come back, but I'm not massively sold on any of them, but I might just leave the scouts to have a little more of a look on them. Maybe one of them might come good. So we've got this done in and we can actually see his stats now, and he's actually pretty good. And we've obviously been struggling at left back for a player, and he's got a little bit of pace about him, and I like his aggression is 16. Positioning's a bit of a worry, but he's got quite well-rounded mentals, and if they go up by 1, then I'll be pretty happy. Chibambo, he looks like he could be a really strong striker at the moment. His physicals are really good, and I've noticed when a player has really good physicals that are across the board, usually they score a lot of goals. Nonshinga just popped up on a scout report. Got some real good pace. Really good. He's wanted by a couple of teams as well. One of the teams that's in the Prem and one that's just got relegated. And he's at Lion City FC. What a great name for a team that is. And they're not even like a league. They're just in a regional league. So he's actually scored 21 goals in 42 games and got 11 assists. So he's obviously doing the business for them. He's got good determination as well. I'm wondering if he could maybe play somewhere other than up front. And he looks like he can play on the wing, so he might end up being someone who can play on the right hand side, and Siwala could play on the left. Just having another look at Sekwama. He's got some good stats. He's only 18. Just another reason to do it though. Just got a bad feeling about him for some reason, I don't know why. This Chibambo guy, he's wanted by one of the teams in the league now. And I'm pretty sold on him, and I don't really know why. He's not massively great, but aggression and bravery, combined with those physicals, usually does really well. But he is going to count as a foreign player. Not massively much better, but yeah, it's just those top mental stats, and he's stronger. Just having a little look at the training. Yeah, it's not looking great. It's not looking great at all, but there's not really much we can do about it at the moment because we can't get any coaches, and I don't really want to spend any money on getting rid of any of these ones. Just having a look through some of the teams that are in the Premier League, a couple of their players, some of the ones that were towards the bottom, just see if we can find anyone decent. It's not really anyone who's stood out at the moment, which is a bit annoying. One thing that I have noticed when I've been looking around though is that there isn't actually that many teams that have got players that I would be particularly scared of, which is a really good thing, to be honest, because I was worried that they were going to have some seriously good players, but it just seems a little bit like it's a tiny bit better than some of the teams that were in the league that we've just come out of the first division. So maybe we don't need to get players that are as good as what I was first imagining. So I've had more of a look around, I had a look what's in the league, and I'm kind of sold by this Chibambo guy, so I'm just going to offer him a contract. 1.4 is what he really wants, so I'm just going to push his goal bonus up. Hopefully that'll make him score a few goals. Don't mind paying him a little bit of a sign-on fee because obviously I'd have to buy a player otherwise. Just try and knock that wage down to as close to £1,000 as I can. Yeah, I just want to try and get him on a year's contract as well that I've just offered. So 1.2, we still want a bit more. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to get him on a high wage just in case he's a dead duck and end up getting him on a couple of year contracts and I can't ship him because I don't know whether anyone's really going to buy anyone in this league, and especially because he's foreign as well. Might end up being a bit of an ish. 1.4, we'll take that. It's not bad. It's not too bad, that. So I think he's probably going to have to come in. And yeah, Moyo's being a bit of a bitch. He wants quite a bit of stuff, but yeah, I've just took them out and he's accepted. So 1.4, Peter. What are you doing to me, mate? What are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? Let's see. Maybe try get this down to... Don't really want to offer you a deal, really, Peter, to be honest, for that much. Let's have a look at Mohau. He's got a hip injury. It's not the best, Mohau. And he hasn't really got that great stats either, but he did do well last season. Sal's is another one who's a maybe, but he really went off the boil towards the end of last season, and I think we're probably going to be able to get a couple of strikers in. Just don't know at the moment. I'm cautious about offering a load of wages out and not knowing what's going to come through. So here's the reserves. Just going to have another scan through these, maybe. See if there's anyone who's actually improved while they've been in there, but I'm happy to be getting rid of that wages. His work rate is so high that I'm thinking that Sutsalupa inside with Moyo in the midfield roles really did the business, and he had high work rate, so that might be something that I really need to look out for. Just a quick look at my assignments. There's a lot of scout reports going on at the moment. Probably scouted half of South Africa, to be honest, and I'm just going to go down and just make a couple of them urgent, because obviously there's so many that a couple of the players I need to know now if they're going to be any good, rather than wait for them to be done in sort of like an order that the scouts decide upon. So I'm just going to have a look at my short list. This is what I've got at the moment. So there's some names on there. Which is good. That's filtered by ones that want to come to us, so it's looking quite good in that terms of that. I'm not massively sold by a lot of the players at the moment though. Alright, so we're just going to have a little gander at how much each of the players want. Haraba, I've decided that's probably going to have to stay because I need a second keeper. And as bad as he was, we won the league with him in goal, so probably the least I can do is offer him a deal. And he only wants a little bit a week, so 210 quid a week is pretty good. Not going to offer Hendricks a deal. Going to have a look at Mohau. Going to probably need a couple of wing backs, at least 3. And he's happy to come on a backup, which is good. And he only wants 300 quid a week, so that's even better. And I think that might actually be less than what he's on at the moment. So let's just see if he'll come for this. And he's only good for a year as well. Might want... Let's see if we can get him for 300... 325? 300? 325? Yeah, go on. So he's actually taking £75 less a week now, which is good. So I've managed to knock him down, even though I've kept him. Tiali... Yeah, Tiali did a good job last season, so we can get him on another loan, so I'm probably going to end up doing that. For 170 quid a week, you can't really argue with that. Done. I think he's going to come in. I mean, I probably should wait on him, but I've literally scoured through every left back I can possibly find, and I can't find any, so he might end up having to be our left back, and I don't mind getting a foreign left back in because he's that's good. Skippers will come for free on a loan. Yeah, Dunn's just he's alright, and if there's no left backs about, then I'm just gonna have to take what I'm given. Messier, probably gonna get him on a loan as well for free because he did alright. He did alright, really, to be fair. Just get him on a rotation. He did alright, and he's left-footed, so we're gonna try and offer Moyo a deal. I think we're gonna have to do it. He is my captain after all. I really want to try and get him down on his wages, though. I think £1,000 a week's fair, to be honest, Peter. I think it's pretty fair. So just take as close to £1,000 as you can and just sort me out, because I don't want to end up paying you a fortune, really. And we'll pay you a good amount for scoring a goal. And if you're in Team of the Year, he wants a bit more. I don't want to pay him too much on the loyalty bonus because it's going to end up coming out. Greedy agent. Very greedy agent. Not happy about that. Not too far apart, he says. I should hope not. 1-1. Maybe give him a bit more for being on the bench because he's not going to be on the bench. Yeah, he's accepted that. 1-1's not bad. 1-1's not too bad considering what we're going to have to pay players to come in. So, yeah. Byron Hendricks. All the stats are there, but he's lost his legs. He's completely lost his legs, and he wasn't really good enough last season. And if he wasn't doing it in the league below, then I just don't want to risk him in this league, even though it's annoying because I've only just managed to trade him in centre-back and centre-defensive mid to like a reasonable level. So we're going to offer Masibi a contract. I'm kind of making a decision on him, to be honest. I don't want to miss out, and his current club offers him a deal, so I'm just going to offer him a contract. I'm not massively happy because I think that I was hoping for a better goalkeeper, but given the circumstances, I think he's pretty good and hopefully he'll improve quite a bit. And if he takes like 900 quid a week, then I'll be happy. Come on, Masibi. He's happy with that. So a bit more than I wanted to pay for him, but he's pretty good. Alright, so Kaspui. Can't see all of his stats yet. Oh, he's accepted 850. Good stuff. Happy with that. So here's Dunn's contract. He's come up and he wants quite a bit even though he's on a backup, which is a little annoying. I thought that by putting backup I was going to probably end up getting him for less than £1,000 a week. It is only for a year, so that's not too bad as long as we get rid of that extension. I'm being a bit skimpy at the moment with the wages, but I think it's going to come good for us because hopefully we'll be able to get some good players in once it hits the 1st of July, but I just don't want to leave myself in too much of a lurch and miss out on some players. So I miss out on them now, then I'll be absolutely screwed towards the end. I'm just not going to budge off that 1.3. He's accepted now though. 1.3 is not bad. Masibi set to sign. Hopefully he's going to do the job. I keep checking him because I think I'm making a big mistake on him, but I'm pretty sold. So let's just get him in. So Tiali is extended, Messier is extended, Skippers is extended, Kaspui, he's also come in, Chibambo, yeah, I'm pretty happy with him. It's the bravery, aggression and physicals, and he's got decent finishing, it's not bad. So yeah, let's get him in. So here he is, he's come in, looks good, work rate's low, so he's going to have to play through the middle, but think he could do some damage. Only says he's a decent striker, but hopefully I know better than my scout. Done to be finalised. He's only 24 to be fair as well, so he could improve a little bit on those mentals. Just not happy about that positioning at all. He has got good pace though for the league, and the 11-11-11 on heading, marking and tackling is pretty good. He's wanted by a couple of teams as well, so let's get him in. So I'm just going to add another formation on. Got one saved already. It's very similar to my 4-1-2-2-1 formation, but it's a 4-1-4-1. Just so that we've got a formation that we can go really deep. So we've kind of got like 3 that move between them. 30th of June, we're going to get rid of everyone. Tell people who aren't going to get another contract that they're going. And a couple of my staff are wanting new contracts. I'm just going to give him one because I don't really want to lose any of the scout reports that I've currently got. Yeah, everyone's gone. So that's what we've got left. Just going to try and build a bit of a team out of this. See what we've got and what we need to get in. And sort of put people on the bench who I think are going to be bench players as well. So we're doing all right so far. Still got a lot of the window left to do. And even though we've only got three outfield players assigned at the moment, obviously Moyo's probably going to start, but I'd like to get a couple of centre midfielders in. We've got 3 backup strikers, so we might only need to get one more in at the moment. Maybe not even get one in because Kuhn could probably play up front with those 2, and I think between them maybe they're going to do all right. Defence definitely needs looking at. Masibi's obviously going to come in goal, we would hope. And even though he rejected, I'm kind of still hoping that Matthias guy is going to come in. Otherwise, I really don't know who we're going to get. But potentially at the moment, it's looking like it could be Moyo, Kuspui in those box-to-box midfield roles. Matthias maybe just in front of the defence. Not too sure at all about the centre halves. I'm going to have a look at that. And probably Mo Hout is going to start at right back. Could maybe get Tiali in there somewhere because he did do a good job last season. Masibi in goal and then 3 strikers. So I've spent a lot of time. I've spent a lot of time getting to this date. It's the 30th of June. So I think it's a good time to end this episode because I've been recording for a while. So we're going to start the next episode on the 1st of July, which is obviously a big day because all the free transfers come available. All the players go back to the parent clubs in terms of the loans, and we can maybe get a couple of new loanees in. We'll probably be able to just get a bit of a better feel for what type of players we can get in, and obviously it means that the number of players that we've actually got in our scouting is going to be what we're going to have pretty much until the end of the transfer window. So let's just cross our fingers and hope for the best that we actually manage to get a couple of decent centre-backs in, because otherwise we're going to end up being stuck with skippers and maybe someone else that we can get in, but I really don't want to start him, to be honest, at centre-back. But yeah, that's the end of this episode. So if you liked the video, then hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, then yeah, it'd be great if you could. And yeah, see you next time, guys.